not related to cats. Do you want to
Yes.
talk some data science, deep learning,
I mean,
fun stuff?
I guess that is kind of why I'm here, so suppose we can.
So I'm gonna start with a softball question.
Sure.
So okay, what is fastai?
Huh. You say softball. Do you mean the company, the library, or the course?
So I think that's a great starting place, is that fastai is more than one thing.
Yep.
Which I did not know until just this moment.
A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
I was having this conversation with Hamill, one of the devs for fastai, like a month ago about this exact question, which has me kind of skeptical. But yeah, no, you're right. fastai is like a conglomerate of things, because like you have practical deep learning for coders and Jeremy's wonderful course he does. And then you have like fastai, the library, which is a deep learning framework that wraps around PyTorch to basically make it easier for people to perform deep learning. And then you have fast.ai, which is a company and collective of other libraries like Notebook Dev, FastCore, which brings in a lot of different like languages into Python, fastai, and so forth.
Okay, so there's a whole bunch of things.
Yes.
That fastai could be. So you're talking about a framework for deep learning. So if I were getting started in deep learning, what am I like? Where is fastai in the landscape, right? Because I've heard of, let's say, like TensorFlow and PyTorch, and now you're telling me we've got a wrapper for PyTorch.
Yeah, so the way to think about it is kind of like, if you're coming from TensorFlow, you might be familiar with Keras, right? So Keras to TensorFlow is fastai to PyTorch.
Brilliant.
So it lightly wraps around it, greatly wraps around it to hopefully improve the user experience so that you don't have to know PyTorch to do PyTorch. It's the same thing with like transformers and how it wraps around like training language models, or PyTorch Lightning, and sort of how it wraps around PyTorch in itself. There's 15 different frameworks that you can pick from, honestly, at this point. But that's a pretty good way to describe like what fastai tries to do. And what makes it different is it comes from the perspective of you don't really know how to code too much. Like the ballpark to start the course Jeremy recommends is a year of coding, which is fair. And the goal of fastai is to give you an intro-level API that even a monkey can understand, to the point of saying, I have this one class, I just need to tell it my data, say I want to do this model, and it will train in less than 10 lines of code.
Wow. Okay, this feels very, as someone who comes from the R programming language, this feels like the tidyverse in some ways to me, where you're still typing code, you're still using code, but instead of needing to understand the intricacies of the R programming language, you're really more focused on a task that you're trying to accomplish. In this case, a deep learning model.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So oh my gosh, so many deep learning questions. So some of these, I have some opinions and some thoughts, but maybe this might come across as a little adversarial. It's not meant that way, but
I love all of this. Like, I am the man that roasts the fastai framework daily on some of its things, but I also love the framework. So lay it on me.
Yes. So is deep learning only good for things like Kaggle competitions?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Because part of me wants to say yes. The reality of it is, like, deep learning specifically is a lot more prevalent in vision and text. Because in that space, you'll find, in some cases you could pull off like some sort of a linear regression model for some things. But usually deep learning is what's more prevalent there, like object detection, image classification, and so forth. Kaggle is there basically to give companies ideas on how to do their things. So that's really what it is, because the companies pay for it. And then, they're, depending on the competition, they then, give the winners like, here, we're actually going to use this in production. But specifically for those two areas, tabular's still just raw machine learning. For deep learning for tabular,
would there be a use case for deep learning for tabular?
Is there a use case? Yes. Is it a giant waste of compute? Yes. That is my official stance on it. No.
We're gonna make a plaque, and that's what it's gonna say.
Perfect. In that case, we'll just say referenced by I'm trying to think. Who am I thinking of? Referenced by Bojan Tungus.
Yes.
And he's the main reason why I say that, because XGBoost is still king of tabular.
I'm a huge fan. Like, I made it pretty far and sliced just doing XGBoost. So I have a deep, deep love for XGBoost.
Honestly, it's pretty much everything you need. And like, there's some areas where for a while we thought deep learning and tabular could intersect. Like if you're doing things like, I have image data and I also have like these tabular data for this image, words that describe it. And so what people have tried to do is like say, okay, let's see if we can like take two models, a tabular model that can like take these words and put them into what are called embeddings, representations, right? Feed that in with the other image model to give it context and see if that works better. But then also we can get those embeddings from XGBoost. So it's like, well, I don't know anymore.
Yeah. So in thinking kind of from let's say I'm just coming to the machine learning, deep learning space now as a learner. Do I have to choose between machine learning and deep learning? Or like, what would, if I start going in, and we'll kind of back this into the course that you're building. So if I start with deep learning, if I say, listen, linear regression, decision trees, XGBoost, that's fine. I'm not super into that. And I really want to pursue deep learning. What does that kind of set up? What opportunities in a career does that set up?
Depending on the company, a lot of research. My previous job was working at Novetta, where a lot of it was deep learning focused. There were some machine learning aspects as well, but a lot of it was more deep learning. What is the latest? What is state of the art? Let's try and see how it works, see if it's actually practical. And if it is, try and see if we can get that to production. There's a lot of blending over between the two studies. So like for me, my history started with taking FastAI's Practical Deep Learning for Coders. And I took one course over a year and a half. Because I would just go down rabbit holes upon rabbit holes and, learn as I went. But that being said, like I didn't write my first attempt with XGBoost 2.5 years into this nonsense. Now take that from the perspective though of outside of what I did at Novetta, I'm more of a machine learning software engineer or deep learning software engineer, and really like to call myself a deep learning framework engineer.
Okay.
So I more build the tools than use the tools. But that being said, the longer you're in it, it doesn't matter if you start with machine learning or deep learning. Eventually, you'll get to a point where they intersect and you switch for a little bit, and then you can pick and choose. So there's no wrong answer on what to start with.
Which is helpful because I feel like when you're starting out, it just all you see are the things you don't know. And it feels like if I choose the wrong path, I'm never going to be able to move over. But then it sounds like what you're saying is the further you get, the more you learn, and not even, 5-10 years into it, but a year into it, you're starting, you'll see crossover and you'll be able to pick different things up. So.
Absolutely. Like one of my favorite ideas, which was talked about in the Stanford deep learning course by Andrew Ng, I believe, discussed a T model when you're learning things. So the flat part of the T represents breadth, right? So over time, you learn all of these different things. If we're talking machine learning, that could be like XGBoost random forest into tabular neural networks, into neural networks, and so forth. And that's your breadth. And then you have one thing that is your depth. So you understand everything else happening around you, but you get really good at that one thing. And getting good at that one thing will always make you hireable, because most companies need someone that's really good at just one thing, such as yourself. You've gotten really good at doing this. Your company can't get rid of you.
We hope. I mean,
we hope. Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows, honestly. But like, it's that sort of situation where it's like, trust in yourself and get good at that thing, because what that also shows is you've learned how to learn, which that's the most hireable thing you can do. It's horrible tangent. Honestly, I forgot where
no, absolutely. These are very conversational, and I love that direction, because what it got me thinking of is, so what was your path to this? Are you entirely self-taught? Are you going to tell me you have a degree in like the philosophy of music, and you just kind of fell in love with tech and found these courses online, and here you are today?
Okay, so it's not that extreme, but also is.
Okay, let's hear it.
Full story was, now for perspective, I'm like turning 25 next week, right? So we'll use that as a benchmark of my age.
Happy birthday. Happy quarter century.
Oh God. So taking that into perspective, right? Since about 8th grade, actually 7th grade, all I wanted to do was marine biology. And so from basically 7th grade until 2nd year of college, my entire life was focused on marine biology. Like, I made my parents let me have saltwater fish in the middle of Colorado in the basement in high school for me to take care of. I don't know why they agreed to this. I'm thankful they did, but also I don't know why they did. I had interned at like a college level facility and graduate level facility as in senior in high school. So very much so into marine biology. Like, I have a rescue diver certification in diving. So like, I was going for it.
Like all in.
Exactly. And then Bio 2 hit. Biology 2, lab. And then I quickly realized I am analytical. I am not a visual learner. And when you have to do dissections and label body parts and things and label fauna, I wasn't very good at that. And so it took 2 rounds of basically Bio 2 for me to go, okay, that isn't going to work. The last 7 years of my life now account for nothing. Oh God, what do I do? That's what it was like. Like, obviously now I know that's not the case, but it's terrifying.
Because it's the first time, right? Like, spoiler alert to anyone who has just like, that's life, right? Like,
yep.
Every 7 to 10 years, it seems like you're going to be like, that was not the, like, I want to do something different, but that's huge, right? Like, so you have this class and you're not jamming with it. It's not a good time.
So then I talked with my parents and talked with the school counselors and everything, or college counselors, and switched over to, what did I think? I think I started off with computer science.
Okay.
Because the backup was always do tech, because my dad had made me learn a little bit of like Scratch growing up. And I enjoyed coding and I could get by. And then a few weeks later, my university goes, hey, we're having a new degree coming out. It's called software design and development. The main difference, computer science people have to take physics. I don't. That was the only reason I signed up for it, and it was the best decision I ever made.
No physics.
No physics.
I have a very to talk about tangents. It was my senior year. I put off taking physics until senior year in college, and it was my favorite class. And my professor was like, "You could have been a physics major." So that is like my path not taken. But you were like, if I have an opportunity not to take physics. Wow. Okay. And so did you just naturally kind of graduate and fall into the deep learning fast AI world?
Oh God, no. Honestly, I have my dad to thank for that.
Okay.
Because about a year into my studies, he approached me and was like, "Hey, Jeremy Howard released this version 2 of this course, and I think you should take it. I think it'd be good for you." My dad's done a lot of like, I'm very thankful for him. He's tried to find me opportunities,
Yeah.
no matter what I'm doing, to see like how I could get ahead in the field. Um, and at the time, I was like, God, no, I'll never be this good. This looks horrible. This looks terrifying. This looks so mathy. Which, mind you, I took AP Cal in high school and then never took another math class again. Because the state of Florida went, you took calculus, you took statistics. You don't need any more math.
Well, I mean,
Sure,
getting through calculus is a big deal, right? Like, I think a lot
it
of schools,
is.
like you kind of stop at algebra 1 and 2.
But then, like, I'm also going into a math heavy field, graduating school in 5.5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember very little of calculus, and suddenly it matters a lot. But yeah, so basically I told him like, no, I'm like trying to learn Java and all of this right now. Like, there's no way I can do that. And then a year goes by, and I was like, okay, we'll try this thing. And so I get through the first lesson, and in it, Jeremy, for version 3 of the course came out. Jeremy shows you in the first lesson how to classify cats and dogs using 10 lines of code. And I did that. And then I was hooked. And coincidentally, at the same time, I was working night shifts at the library 3 nights a week. So no one was there from about 10 o'clock until 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had free reign to do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
So rather than sitting there and watching anime or playing video games on work, because you can do that because it's college, no one cares. Instead, I was a little gremlin learning fastai and spending far too much time in the source code. It got to a point where my software engineering professor, Dr. Brian Eddy, loved that man to death. He's half of why I am what I can do. He was a wonderful teacher. But I took we had that course in Java, and I did a short answer problem, half in Java, half in Python. And he knew that right away. And he's like, Zach, I'm only taking 1 point off because it's right. But also, this is like half pseudocode because you're writing in 2 different languages. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to learn JavaScript, Java, Python, and C++ right now because of this degree program.
Yeah, and look, there's like enough overlap that they kind of bleed into each other. It's not like, SQL and even there you've still got, and yeah, so like, of course.
It's horrible. But yeah, so I basically spent a year working on 7 lessons. And even then, I think I stopped at like lesson 5.
Okay.
And maybe lesson 4. And I just didn't finish the other 3 for a full year after that fact.
Okay.
So like, I tote the FastAI course and how wonderful it is. But also, I only did up to lesson 4 for like the longest time.
But so the FastAI course is available asynchronously.
Yep.
For people, I think is kind of the key point here. It's not like Jeremy held up the class and waited for you to show up to class 5.
Basically, how that works is the new part 2 is actually going on right now.
Okay.
And basically, Jeremy, you can either pay for a seat through the university, or if you're active on the FastAI forums, get invited. And you can participate in the course live.
Okay.
And it's basically Jeremy speaks to you. You can ask questions in chat. And that's a small part of the course in its aspect. That's actually the smallest part is the lessons.
Okay.
The larger part is being active on the FastAI forums, reading through them, learning what everyone else has done, going through the threads of like people also doing the lectures the same as you asynchronously. And that's like probably the biggest impact with the course, because it is an asynchronous course that has a new version released every 2 to 4 years, depending. And through doing it and both doing it and participating in the forums, it's very easy to set yourself higher than a lot of people in this field. Because this is my own personal bias opinion on this, but there is no community quite like the FastAI community. The FastAI community is very special. because Jeremy's very respected. A lot of big companies look there.
Mhm.
And so you have access to all these wonderful people that don't really go to the forums with big egos. Everyone is there to learn for everything. There's genuinely no such thing as a stupid question on that forum. Because even if it's stupid, I will still go and answer it for you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, I think that's such a great approach. We did that with R for Data Science online learning community.
Mhm.
As part of the advertisement for it was like, if someone asks how to install R, you help them install R. You don't send them a link to a manual. You take
Exactly.
responsibility and you show. I think that kindness is a way to really pay it back, as well as pay it. Those people are going to remember how you make them feel. And
Exactly.
that's huge. That's huge. That sounds like a fantastic forum. So there's all these things that come together to make Fast AI what it is, right? So if
Mhm.
someone is learning or wants to learn, you're suggesting the course and the forums. But
Mhm.
I hear there's a third component that you've created
Yes.
that might be helpful.
This is what other people have said because I will never say this. Mostly because I just don't enjoy showboating.
Mm,
But about 3 years ago, I wrote my own. No, 2 years ago, I wrote my own course called Walk with Fastai. And basically, what it was is I had gone through this course over the last year or so, right? And I had written all these notes,
mhm,
and eventually I was like, well, these are kind of different from how Jeremy does things. I explain things a bit differently. I notice a few things different. I try and toy with things. What happens if I try to teach it? And so I did a small study group at my university. There was like 3 people, and then eventually it was down to one, but that went off well. Um, and so then I upgraded, and I was like, okay, well, I'm afraid to step on Jeremy's toes, but
mhm.
I'm going to run this course. I'm going to build a course based on all these notes and run it starting from the FastAI forums. And so it was a total of, I think, 14 lessons covering vision and tabular, and there was supposed to be text, but I didn't quite get there, on FastAI.
Mhm.
And I was expecting 2 people to show up, and it kind of blew up. And at first I was like, okay, well, this is kind of like cool. I see so many people are like getting genuine value out of this. I don't quite see how because I'm doing this, I do it. I know people have said
Mm.
I explain things differently, which helps. And then Hamil Hussein actually sent me a note yesterday with his opinion on it. And basically what he said is, you don't summarize the lectures. You apply different problems that I find as I'm exploring the lectures outside of the bounds of maybe what that original lecture was meant for.
Mhm.
And in the wise words of Mythbusters, the difference between science and messing around is writing it down.
Mhm.
And so I wrote it down.
Yeah.
And I then also looked at okay, what are the most common problems in Fast AI? Because Jeremy can only do so much in his courses, right? Because it's designed to be a deep learning course.
Mhm.
My course was going to be a how to Fast AI,
Okay.
essentially. Um, and so it wound up being a very successful course that I kind of wasn't really expecting or prepared for. And so as a result, I kind of finished that course. Everyone loved it, and then didn't do it again. Mostly because I had written that course in
Mhm.
4 weeks.
Okay. That's really fast.
Burnout.
Yeah.
This is now going to bleed into having ADHD and in tech, but I have hyperfocus ADHD.
Mhm.
And I was not diagnosed with hyperfocus ADHD at the time. Actually, I'm mixed. But the hyperfocus went full swing when you have access to, no one surrounding you,
Mhm.
and you have to do something, and you're in a library for 9 hours or
Yeah.
whatever, 8 hours. Um, and on top of that, I didn't have really responsibilities or to do anything outside of just school. And so I wrote this entire thing, which is great. And what's been difficult for me ever since is trying to figure out how to do it again without burning out,
Mm.
without over it, making expectations too high of what it's going to be, along with trying to be healthy for myself.
Yeah.
And so now I am redoing Walk with Fast AI
Great.
through a new course called Walk with Fast AI Revisited. And the general idea with this course is now for perspective, Walk with Fast AI is free. This course is not. And the reason I made this distinction is the original content in Walk with Fast AI is still relevant today. This is something I fought with for quite a while because I wasn't entirely comfortable with saying, hey, let's actually try monetizing this thing, because that's weird when you do it in open source, but like it also shouldn't be because you're investing in yourself.
Yeah.
And so what this course is all about is, okay, so we have Walk with Fast AI that sort of shows you, here's how to do these cool things from a very application perspective. Like every lesson was, we're going to build one new thing that wasn't talked about in the Fast AI course, or if it was, we're going to go a different perspective on it. Revisited is designed to go, all right, you maybe have taken Walk Fast AI. You might not have. Here's things that I've now learned 3 years into using this framework that people should really benefit from, because while it's great from a beginner perspective, when you want to do things a little differently, Fast AI's flexibility tends to linger some. And so this whole course is designed around making that easier without having to say, hey, you need to understand a lot about software engineering to get there, and you have to go through source code, because that is, no matter the framework, a nightmare.
Yeah. And hard. Right. And
yes,
it's hard to motivate yourself to do. It's hard to, especially for a beginner, like that's not what you want to sit down and do. That's like learning the rules to baseball before being allowed to play baseball.
Exactly. And that was basically the goal with this. And, Hamill had mentioned the way you write notes in it is very different. Part of this resource and why Walk with Fast AI worked well is the Fast AI notebooks and the Fast AI documentation are more documentation based, or they're missing a lot of things. I write my stuff with, if I think about it as I'm going through it, it is on there.
Okay.
It is very much so just a brain dump. And so with the new notebook dev, which is building libraries through Jupyter Notebooks, the entire course is built off of it. Okay. Because it relies on the Quarto platform, which is a different way for you to write documentation libraries that allows you to do a lot more. Yep. And so for me, what this allows me to do is in the course, I can write little side notes. I can write little code highlights. I wrote my own thing to let me explain code line by line as well. So as you're sitting there looking at a code snippet, it's not just, here's the code snippet and here's me talking about it. It's no, you can interact with it and say like, okay, well, this is what that line's doing because Zach explained this. This is what that line's doing. That's the other reason why I decided to go ahead and make this affordable, but still monetize it, because the amount of effort I'm putting into this is infinitely more than the previous course. And right now there is no official start date yet. Pre-orders are currently at 50% off. So the course is like $50. Yeah. The main reason for that is, again, going back to I want to make sure I don't hit burnout, but I still want to make sure I get it done. So like, I told a few times that I wanted to get it ready by the 16th. That's not quite going to happen because I got hit with COVID. No. But yeah, it's fine. Hoping to get it ready by like December.
Yeah. So you could, if I may give take what you want, leave what you don't need. From a marketing perspective, capitalizing on people's New Year's resolutions is always a great launch time.
Okay, now look, we're talking about tech. We're not talking about going to the gym. That's a whole different conversation, but you're not wrong. No, and like that's the joy of this thing as well, though, is it's a never aging resource. So like the reason why I have pre-orders available and why they're cheaper is A, to like get people in that want to do it. And B, the difference between pre-orders and buying it later is pre-orders get to take it live. That's their only added benefit. But that's also an added benefit a lot of people enjoy.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's you still have access to all of these notebooks, you still have access to all these videos. And so, like, from that perspective, it's not just gonna poof.
Right.
It's gonna sit there and be available forever.
Okay. Yeah, that's an
So
incredible
yeah.
resource and a huge investment of time and energy. That is,
I have purposefully not been keeping track of how many days I spent on
yeah,
it.
that's fair, right? Because it'll be something, I mean, once it's done, once it's done, it's
Mhm.
not even really done because you're teaching the live courses.
Yep.
And then I assume doing some level of maintenance on the materials.
You'd actually be quite surprised. Because fastai, despite like the fact that version 2 versus version 3 like completely broke each other, I haven't had to do maintenance on the original 3-year-old course now, or 2-year-old course at all.
That's amazing.
Um, because like of how things are explained and how sort of fastai works.
Hmm.
The only maintenance I'd have to do would be if fastai version 4 came out and they decided to rework the framework from scratch. And if they did, I just write a new course.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that makes
like,
sense.
for the time being, unless fastai decides to completely redo absolutely everything, which is a
Could
non-zero
happen.
chance, um, even if it did, I would still make another resource
Mhm.
because I understand the value of it. I constantly want to keep up with how the framework's doing, anyways, so I might as well make notes for it.
Yeah,
And if I'm going to make notes for it, I might as well share it with everyone.
I love it. I think that's such a great way. So for anybody looking to get started with Fast AI, we have some great resources from you. We've got the forums, we've got the classes. It's all there. There's really, and I think what you're saying is really just time, right? Time invested, but it's learnable, right? With
Yes,
some basic Python skills. And there are a million different intro to Python courses you can take online at various organizations, but people can within a year be very comfortable with deep learning using the Fast AI framework.
absolutely. Um, if you just like, I know it's that old tangent of 30 minutes a day. No, it is. I
Yeah.
did it for
Yeah.
6 months and it got me my first internship. It works.
Yeah. That's
Um,
amazing.
but also like, since we're going into this now, that 30 minutes a day doesn't have to be like 30 minutes on just that thing.
Mm,
Like a lot of people think 30 minutes a day, it has to just be on fastai. I have to just do this thing. I can't afford to go look at everything else. If I have to deal with debugging, then suddenly I'm off track. No, that debugging portion, no matter what you're learning, is the learning. Like
yeah.
everything else is, you understand, like, oh, here's how this framework flows and everything. But fixing the problems and researching how to fix those problems, that is really what you learn. No one really talks about that, no matter what the course is, because everyone wants to do like my course can help you do all these things. But the being able to debug it is where really your skills will hone and shine. And that's how you become an expert in no matter what course you decide on.
Yeah. I love that. We talk about that. I go to classes for animation. Right. We have lectures but they talk about it as being the jumping off point because it's really all of the things that you're doing around it, right? Like the
Mhm.
lesson is going to take you so far, but you have to going outside that will only benefit you. And yeah, all the tangential pieces.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, cool stuff. So I don't have a good segue, but how is lifting going? Speaking of things that are,
Ooh.
like slow and steady,
Yep.
you cannot, like, I think with deep learning, right? Okay, a year, 30 minutes a day, you can be ready for an internship. Lifting, I mean, a year of lifting is not going to get you ready for the Olympics,
Well,
right? I don't know. I don't know what's your
I'll
lifting.
actually disagree with you on that. But specifically, it's how you're lifting.
Mm,
Because 3 months of lifting alone will have amazing results
yeah.
out of anyone if you're adamantly lifting. Um, it's again that same tangent of just 30 minutes a day, stacks and stacks exponentially.
Yeah.
But with how lifting is going, I got very sick and lost a lot of pounds, and so now I'm a weak boy again.
Yeah.
Quite literally, this week was the first time I've been back in the gym in about like a month and a half. because
Okay.
I've just been doing so much travel and like other things that it's like, well, great. I used to lift 225 pounds for bench, and now I'm lifting like 180.
Hmm.
But that's the flow.
Yeah.
If you're in tech and you're not going to the gym, just or even like running,
Yeah.
please do it. Like,
Walking.
don't.
I'll even
Yes,
throw walking. Going
I
for a walk.
yes, walking is included in that. Absolutely, I go for a 30-minute walk in a nature trail by me every single morning. It helps clear my head and helps alleviate stress. Going to the gym specifically releases endorphins that, if you have ADHD, helps your ADHD. Fun fact. But it also relieves stress.
Yeah.
And tech is what, mildly stressful field, maybe sometimes
I
ish.
can't decide. Sometimes I'm having the time of my life, and sometimes I'm just like, I can't do this anymore.
Honestly. And that's why, like, one thing I've noticed is when I don't go to the gym, I get a lot more
Hmm.
stressed.
Yeah.
Um, and so just like do something, do yoga, do something active along with doing tech because it keeps you healthy and will only benefit you. But how I'm going specifically is I used to do a lot of powerlifting.
Hmm.
And I say used to, I mean literally until like 2 months ago. And now I'm sort of switching over to more staying lean and being flexible.
Hmm.
So, like, I'm starting up yoga classes, trying to look at gymnastics places for me to go to.
Yeah.
Sort of exploring that because I've wanted to for a while. Just I was sort of on this big push to do powerlifting, but then it's like, well, I'm not gonna ever do a meet and
Hmm.
compete because that's
Yeah.
not my thing. So let's try something new.
Well, this has been fantastic. It was good to catch up. Is there anything we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
I mean, we shoved in ADHD in tech. That's pretty darn good. Um, I guess the only thing we didn't talk about is what I'm actually doing for work
Yeah, like what are
now,
you doing
because I'm
for
not
work?
doing fastai. I work for Hugging Face, hence this.
Fantastic.
Um, and I work on distributed computing now. Um, when I started this job, I had never touched anything more than one GPU. So you can still get hired and not absolutely know what you're doing as long as you know how to learn. Back to that point.
Mhm.
Um, but that's like been a big focus of mine now. And honestly, I love it. I genuinely can't think of working anywhere else.